are the weekly events for the Grace United Church of Christ in Sauk Village, Illinois. You are cordially invited to a presentation of our pastor's recent pilgrimage to South Africa. She will share her experiences this Thursday, April 7th at 7 p.m. during our Bible study hour. The topic for this week's Sunday School is a reversal of shame. Please join us at 9:30 a.m. for Sunday School each week. Sunday morning worship begins at 11 o'clock a.m. each week. Join us this week as our senior pastor, the Reverend Melody Seaton, delivers a sermon entitled, Cast Your Net to the Right Side. April 24th is Friends and Family Day at Grace. Invite a friend and come to worship with us. Be blessed this week. We hope to see you soon.
Well, good evening, and welcome everybody to our Bible study hour. We're doing something a little bit different, and so I want to thank you so very much for allowing me an opportunity to share an experience that I've prayed for a very long time, and that is to visit Africa. I do pray that if you have not been, that you will put that on your bucket list, because it is certainly worth the 19 hours of travel. All right. Well, what I did was we went to South Africa. I went with a group of 72 people from Covenant, New Faith, Victory Apostolic. It was just a variety of churches that were involved in this venture, primarily though Covenant members. And we left Chicago, went to Washington, D.C. We connected from there to Accra, Ghana, and then we went to Johannesburg in South Africa. From there, we got on another plane and we went to Cape Town, and that's where we spent the first part of our venture. I was excited. This lady here is the former president of the Chicago Teachers Union. I thought it was so cute that we were together. She knows that at one time I had wanted to have that job that she had, but God had other plans. So, again, this is our first, right, it looks very familiar, doesn't it? I didn't feel out of place or anything like that. KFC is very popular in South Africa. Everywhere you go, every other corner, just like McDonald's, is also there. Rock and roll McDonald's, you know, but I think they have like antelope burgers or something like that. No. I'm just playing. I didn't go in. I did not go all the way to Africa to go to KFC or McDonald's. But this was a view from the first hotel that we stayed in. And I was waiting on the elevator, and I just happened to turn around. I love those views. So I took a picture, and we were on the bus here, and I just took another shot. I just kind of like that. So again, it's not a whole lot different than from here. One of the first things that we did was go to a place called Seal Island, and at the top that's the harbor, and they had a lot of vendors there, so you were able to buy things if you wanted to. They were very nice people. You could barter, so I love that. You know, they give you a price, you give them a price. They're not going to let you go unless you buy it, so you know, you kind of had them at your advantage. So we boarded the boat, and then we traveled to Seal Island, and those are all seals all over those rocks, those clusters of rocks, those little things you see sticking up, those are seals. That was me on the boat. I was smiling the whole time, for the most part. That's
a nice picture. It is. Oh, I like that.
So the next thing that we did was we went to the Cape of the Good Hope, and that is that point the southernmost point of South Africa. And they gave us a little history on it, and forgive me, I cannot remember all of that. But anyway, it was kind of interesting. You see it on the map, but we were actually there. You know, that's really something. So this is the first picture. I was standing on the sign, in front of the sign, and you can go up. You can walk up, or you can take this tram or something. And I chose to not take the tram. I needed to get miles on the Fitbit, you know, steps on the Fitbit, so I said, I'm going to walk. I got halfway up and I saw this sign. Baboons are dangerous and attracted by food. Well, I got rid of everything I had. I got rid of everything. You know, it had snacks stuck in pockets and stuff, you know. And then I was kind of like, should I go any further? I wasn't quite sure. But I did. I did. I went up to the top. Isn't it beautiful? Yeah, I went up to the top. I don't do heights too well, so I didn't stay there too long. Just long enough to take these pictures. And that beautiful blue water. Yes.
What was the temperature there?
In Cape Town, it was between 70 and 80. But it was a different kind of 70 and 80. It was very pleasant. And at nighttime, though, you needed a jacket. Yeah. But other than that, it was really pleasant. It was beautiful. Even when we were on the water, it was not that bad. You saw I didn't have anything on, but that was during the daytime, of course.
Were there any insects yet? Any insects?
Not in South Africa. I didn't have a problem with that. That was later on in the trip. This was the most spiritual experience for me of the trip, and that was to go to Robben Island. Of course, you know, this is where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for about 20-something years, 27 years or something like that. They broke it down for us because he was, you know how when someone goes to jail, they take them to Cook County first, and they might stay there for a good length of time before they actually go wherever they're going to go. So he actually made a couple of pit stops before he actually got to Robben Island. And this picture over here, that looks like a bunch of seagulls or something like that, but actually it is like these huge craters that they look like crosses. It was the most amazing thing, and all of them are shaped the same. And nobody gave an explanation for how they wound up like that, but somebody that was on the boat with us said it reminded them of Alcatraz. I've never seen Alcatraz, but that's what they said. This harbor, I think, was added after the jail was closed, and they made it an attraction. Yeah. So the first thing that I learned about Robben Island was that it was a leper colony at first. A leper colony. So before it became a jail, they would send all the lepers to this island, and that's the graveyard that still exists there. And initially, they would have the women on one side, and they had the men on one side of the island, and they were supposed to stay there, you know, for obvious reasons. They did not want them procreating, and of course that didn't work. They found ways to get together, and so anyway, so it became a leper colony with family. With family. And it was kind of sad to think about that, you know, because those of us that know the Bible, we know how lepers were ostracized, and to think that they took them all the way across to just leave them there, you know. This gentleman here was somebody I also was not familiar with really at all, but he really was the start of apartheid, the dismantling of apartheid. And Robert, I can't say his last name, but anyway, they talked about how he was also the first prisoner on Robben Island, and he was by himself for a very long time. They put him in this, had a pretty nice little setup, you know, but he spoke to no one. There was nobody to talk to. Guards might say a few things to him, but nothing like, you know, we have conversation. And you really don't know how important conversation is until you can no longer do it. His family could only visit him quarterly. And when they would come, and that was the same thing with Nelson Mandela, whenever they came, they would have to make reservations to be approved to come the next quarter. So they said that with him not talking that much, it eventually affected him, his vocal cords. That was the well, excuse me, that was the well in back of the place that he lived. There's a church on Robbins Island, and that was for the lepers to go to, and then eventually for the prisoners. And it's called Church of the Good Shepherd. They said that now, there are people that still live on the island. They work, they keep it, I guess they maintain it because it's no longer a jail, but people visit all the time. So we saw clothes that were hung out, you know, but they said people come there to get married. They have weddings there, do a lot of weddings in that church. I guess it's the symbolism of being married on Robbins Island or something. You know, it was a quaint little church. This little area here looks pretty insignificant, but it really was, and it touched me deeply. This is the quarry that Nelson Mandela and the other prisoners had to dig. That was their job. They dug in this quarry all day long. But the thing about it that the man said is that they were given very primitive tools to dig with. So you know what I thought about. I thought about the Israelites and their captivity and how they were given primitive tools to build, you know, the brick. And then it struck me that Nelson Mandela was freed and Robbins Island was closed down because of, you know, the prison part of it. Anytime the oppressor tries to break us by giving us a hard task and then giving us inadequate tools to complete the task, they always lose. They lost. It was a long time, but they lost. But they expected them to do a certain amount, sound like us picking cotton, you know, they expected a certain amount, and then if it wasn't, you know, they were punished. So it was kind of hard, and when the guy was telling us about it, he was getting a little emotional. There were several times where they got a little emotional when they talked about that, but this quarry didn't look real good. This gentleman, I'm not sure if you can see him really well, but this gentleman, his name stands for peace. And he was a prisoner in Robbins Island when Nelson Mandela was there. So he has first-hand account of this great man. And he was just telling us about, we were sitting in the jail cell, so to speak, because there were like 25 of them in this room, and it wasn't that big. It just kind of looks like it from that angle. And right out here, that's the courtway outside of the jail, and this is the view that Nelson Mandela had to the courtway. So he just basically talked about that experience there. He talked about how Nelson was and how the guards treated them. When he first got there, he talked about he was tortured. And he just kind of glossed over that. He said we were tortured. And then we were, you know, sent here. And somebody asked, how did they torture you? And he paused and he said, are you sure you want to know that? And then someone else said, yeah, I wasn't that person that said that. I've watched enough television to know. And he began to tell us how they would affix, I guess, electrodes to their private area. And he couldn't get through it. He couldn't get through that. And that's when the first tears shed for most of us, because I can't even imagine somebody having that done to them. But anyway, and he said this went on and on and on and on and on. It was just sport for them to do this to them because they really feared them. They were, you know, they feared them. One of the other things this gentleman told us, Peace, was that they were very much aware of the movement here on this soil. He said that they would snuggle in Bibles with clippings, newspaper clippings of the things that were going on here. So they knew about Trinity. You know, they knew that Trinity was at the forefront of all this free South Africa. They knew about the things that our government was doing at the time, but mostly they knew about us. They knew that people were praying for them, that we didn't like this, that this was not something we were going to tolerate. And he said that gave them hope. So that, that really struck me, because sometimes we think that we're the only ones going through something, that nobody is aware of it. But when people are aware of it and they truly know and love the Lord and believe in the power of prayer, you feel it. That inspired them. That was a massive undertaking. So anyway, that was I think that was kind of like the highlights of what he shared. This is Nelson Mandela's cell. That's 2 pictures of it. I tried to get 2 views. I tried to get in there as much as I could, but it was about the size of that closet. If you've ever been in these closets, so it was about the size of the closet, and everything was there.
Were those bars that far apart? Because it looked like you just walked through there.
I was kind of close on it. I think that's what it was. Yeah. No, actually, well, yeah, it is kind of wide. Yeah, but I don't think they were gonna try to do anything.
I mean,
yeah.
Where you going?
Yeah, right. Right, because there were sharks in that water. And we saw them jumping up. Yeah, so they weren't going any too far. They were gonna get eaten. This over here is the menu that they had, and oh my goodness, this was quite a story behind this menu. So you see on the right side, it's Bantus. Okay, so that's what we ate. Okay, and very few coloreds and Afrikaans were there, but that's what they got. One of the 2 things that are missing from the side for us is bread and jam. And the gentleman said that every day they would pray for their daily bread. He said every day we would pray for our daily bread, but we got none. Every day. And he kept on talking about that, and I just kept thinking, oh my gosh. And I'm looking at this menu, they would not give them, man would not give them their daily bread. Well, there's a mountain back here. You see the flat mountain behind me? That's called Table Mountain. And when they were released, they quite naturally asked them where they want to be dropped off, where they want to go. People said different things. You can imagine. Some people said KFC, he said. They wanted some chicken. He said, but most of them said they wanted to go to the top of Table Mountain. And people were kind of perplexed. I was too. I'm thinking, who wants to go to a mountain? You've been, in prison for all these years, and you want to go to the top of a mountain. Well, the mountain is called Table Mountain. And when you go to the top and you turn around, you see Robben's Island. So they were able to look at their past. And that bread, that daily bread, that table was set for them. Oh, gosh. So I love that. I love this picture, especially because that mountain is in the back, and I even got that was one things I bought for myself was it was like junk that somebody took and made a picture. You ever seen some of those where they make a sculpture with just junk? They use junk. And it's actually a shanty, but Table Mountain is in the back, because I'll never forget that. Just to, the 2 things, to be able to look back on your past and know that you're not going to go back there again. That's so biblical. That is so scriptural. So we went in Cape Town. We spent most of our time in Cape Town. And so while there, we went on a tour of one of the townships, and these were the places where they forced us to stay. We couldn't leave off those townships. We could go work, but after we worked, that was the whole apartheid system. So we go work and we go back to those townships. I had never heard of Langa. The most popular one, of course, is Soweto. And we did visit it, but we didn't walk around it that much. But anyway, we walked around pretty much all of Langa. And I just tried to, give a mural of some of the things that we saw. First of all, this lady down here, those are sheep heads. Yeah. And it was another lady next to her, and they are out there every single day roasting those sheep head. They dress a particular way. They have layers of clothing because those pits, this open pits, just like we barbecue, and they have, like some kind of stuff on their face to protect their skin. Oh my God, that lady, I would not want to run into her at night though. She looked mean. And I guess so if you were on all that fire all day, but she would take the sheep head and with her hand and just take it off. You know how sometimes we do that when we cook and we forget and start taking hot things off. We shouldn't be doing that. And you could see it had started taking its toll on her hands. But anyway, she does that for a living. That's how she feeds her family. And so when people get off work, they come by and they get them a sheep head piece of meat or something. It reminded me of the carts. You go into the Mexican communities and you can get you some tamales and all of that. Around our house where we grew up on 79th and Halsted, where Walgreens was, there was a guy that sold pig ear sandwiches. Remember, Mom? And my daddy would make us go up there and get him a pig ear sandwich. So I mean, I didn't see, I could. To me, that wasn't that gross,
right?
Because I've handled pig ear sandwiches and brought them back home to my father. So I thought, well, this is what they eat. I didn't want any. They were. I was on a diet. Didn't want nothing that I'm not used to or didn't recognize. I asked what everything was. This is a lady that I visited in her shanty. The shanties, again, were probably about the size of those closets. And they were made out of the raw materials, the materials of the earth, and they're very primitive. One man in the shanty next to her, he had even figured out a way to get him some light. He made a lamp, and had some light. And one of the things we noticed about the people in their shanties, they were very proud of them because they built them. That's not something somebody can take from them. And no, they didn't look that, you thank God and you say, my goodness, there but for the grace of God go I. To think that they had to live like that no matter what. Because they do have winter. We were actually, when we were leaving, winter was beginning and it rains a lot. So they're patchy, you see patches and things on the tops of their roofs. And but anyway, so I just went in the shanties and I would sit and I'd take pictures or just sit and talk to them as much as they could understand me and I could understand them. This particular area, it was like an alley and the brothers were sitting out. It was just like home. I was just like home. I just kept saying, okay, I'm waiting to see Africa, because this is like Roseland, this is Inglewood, I didn't see anything really different. I felt very much at home. Beautiful. They have places that are extremely beautiful. It was just really no different. But one of the things that really blessed me about this trip is that I didn't bring a lot of souvenirs back because I used my money by giving it to the people. It's a temporary fix, but I just felt like I had it and many of them don't. And so I just gave it. And so I would go in the shanties, I'd talk, and I would leave money and I'd leave out. Just to hear the cries and other expressions was very touching for me. And I pray and I ask God to give me the resources to be able to do that again. I would just love to be able to do that. I think that's just awesome, to just give people what they don't have. This gentleman right here, that was our guide. He was really funny. Looked like a brother you seen on the street, right? I just loved it. I was a little offended by some of the people that acted like they weren't familiar with this, asking questions like, why did you allow yourselves to be put in a township? Well, that's like asking us, why did we allow ourselves to be enslaved? I couldn't imagine why somebody would ask such a question, but it was what it was. And that's one of the houses, the like apartments or something that they lived in, and the cars. And a lot of people have cars. They might live in a shanty and they got a car parked out in front. I said, oh God, that is so much like home. That is so much like, oh my goodness. So we left Cape Town, went back to Johannesburg. Johannesburg was like the hub. You had to go back there. And then we went to a place called Pilanesberg. And we stayed there a few days on a resort that had and we went on a safari. Yeah. I only went one time. They offered it 2 times, one at night when we first got there and one in the morning. The one in the morning was like at 5:30. I wasn't getting up that early. So I decided I would go with everybody else during the night one. And I don't know if I ever have to do that again. So you see there we saw zebras and the proximity, they're pretty close, okay? Right here in the left hand, you can't really see it, and that's as close as we were getting. Those are lions back there eating a giraffe.
Oh.
And every once in a while, and I could see their faces, every once in a while they would look up. And I was like, oh boy. Because you can see them, you can see their eyeballs. And I'm asking the guy that's driving, why are they looking like that? Can they see us? I didn't know if they could, because it was a little bit of a distance, but they were tearing that giraffe up. And he said that they look up like that to make sure nobody's coming around. I don't know who would do that, but you could have that giraffe meat. And he said it would take them about 2 days to eat that giraffe, and they would do this continuously. So, and those are the lovely elephants,
Yes.
and and the giraffes up there. Right. And I'm trying to see if I have another. No, I don't have another picture. Let me see. I actually have another picture where they're closer than that, the elephants. And at that point, I was sitting behind the driver, and I was okay. What you doing? What you waiting on? For that trunk to come in here? Because they were very close. So, as you can tell, I'm not an animal lover. Okay, everybody's got their gifts. Okay, not me. Okay. I went for the experience. I went to be able to say I went on a safari. I'll never have to do that. Jim's
Okay.
Because you weren't there. And I was sitting, everybody kept asking me periodically, Melody, you okay? I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I just want to know when we're going back. Right here, this was a very exclusive mall, Nelson Mandela Square. I thought that was so contradictory because that mall was super high end, Gucci and
Tourist trap.
yeah. And I would imagine though, because of the rands versus the dollars, you probably could get some very good buys. But I didn't have any money at that point. I wouldn't have wanted to do that. That wasn't why I went there. But anyway, it was a very beautiful mall, and out in front of it, I thought I got it, but there's a huge statue of Nelson Mandela. He was a very tall man. He was 6'5" anyway. Yeah, he was 6'5". And that statue is huge, and you just stand there staring at it. It was something. This is from Soweto. When we left Pilanesberg, we went back to Johannesburg to stay a few days. And in the middle here is a church called Regina Mundi. It's a Catholic church. And this is where they held a lot of the secret meetings during the dismantling of apartheid. They would meet there, and it reminds you of us, doesn't it? Our history all over again. There were a lot of bullet holes in there. I couldn't capture a lot of that. But every once in a while, they would find out that they were there, and they would shoot in the church. Isn't that something? These are some water tanks that they no longer use, but they have the history of that whole apartheid. And in between that, they do bungee jumping. They do a lot of bungee jumping in Africa. I'm thinking, whoo. Now that's something we don't have in common. That is something we don't have in there. Matter of fact, our guide, Prosper, I mentioned him in a sermon. Prosper has done skydiving, all kinds of things. And I'm like, well, that's probably where the line is drawn between cultures.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, that was so, the mural was really pretty.
So the Madonna, black, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
You
that's
said that was-
you
is
saw
that-
a lot of
Is that
that.
the Catholic Church?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the Catholic Church. Yes, yes.
I have read that.
So a lot of that. One of the things, you know, you talk to people there about Nelson Mandela. They say that Nelson Mandela his presidency afforded political freedom, but not economic growth. It's yeah. Isn't it interesting? And that's one. So when they talk about it, I guess they want to say something good, but the conditions that they're living in, many of them, it makes them sad. This is in the middle, Hector Peterson. There's a little area in Soweto that's dedicated to him. This statue here, a waterfall, a little boy, I think he was about 14. He was like the first casualty in that whole Soweto uprising thing, and these are relatives carrying his dead body, a child. We went to the Apartheid Museum and they gave us tickets. Remind you of again. So I that was my ticket. I was special. I could get in the special door, you know, but if you got the colored one, you had to go in another door. Same thing with us. I went to the school.
I know.
Yeah. All those children are so mannerable. They wear their uniforms. Their parents have to pay for them to go to school. Their education is not free. And it might not be a lot, but they still have to pay. The little girls, their hair is always cut short. They don't allow them to, even though they wear a lot of weave, because, you know, my hair was, you know, in my fro, and they were looking at me like, like, okay, I thought I was, you know, getting down with the cause here. But everybody else's hair was straight. You know, they were weaved down. And a lot of beauty shops, but they're black. You know, the stores for the hair, black only. But anyway, when the girls are in elementary school, or they call it primary school, they cannot have their hair long. It has to be short. And of course, that's for obvious reasons. They do not want them in competition about their looks. They want their focus on education. And we know that that's very important for them even when they come here, because they don't understand, and I think that's the tension between Africans and black African Americans, because they don't always feel that we value what we get for free, and they have to pay for it. So these were the pretty little babies. We stopped and got a lot of stuff so that we could give them, so you could see some of the things that they got, and they were so happy and so excited, very appreciative. But you know, in every class there's got to be somebody, right? So I had passed out some things to one little boy, and I was getting ready to give something to the boy next to him, and he puts his hand back out, you know, to kind of push his hand out the way. I said, you know, you got something, now sit down. And so Reverend Ozzie was standing close by, and he said, oh my goodness, the principal has come out. He said, that boy don't know what he's dealing with. He snapped a picture of me with my hand. I'm like, I wasn't going to show you all that. But it just was natural. I couldn't believe he was trying to do that. But other than that, everybody was really, really, really beautiful. These are some other pictures in the class. I took a picture of her because I love how they carry their babies. I had those snuggly things when my children were born. And in Johannesburg, they typically carry their babies on their back. But in Zimbabwe, they carry their babies in the front. Yeah, and I don't know why that difference, but that's how they do it. So we left Johannesburg, we went to Zambia. And that's where our plane, we went to the Zambia airport. And then we went to Zimbabwe from there. Well, that was quite an adventure. I will try to keep my commentary nice, but I don't necessarily have to go back here again for several reasons.
You mean Zambia, right?
Zimbabwe. We really didn't spend any time in Zambia because we stopped there in the airport, and that's where we spent our time. But we were going to Zimbabwe. And so we were told that our visas were going to be $50 in American money. So in Zimbabwe, they use American currency now. Their president There's something going on there. He's been in power for like 36 years, I believe, and in his 90s. And they said that the first 10 years of his tenure that he was very akin to Nelson Mandela. The people loved him and revered him. And then he got embroiled in the nastiness of politics, and he changed quite a bit. So the reason that they had to switch to American currency is because their currency had no value eventually. They have money that was like $50,000 bill, you know. I couldn't get any. One of the ladies that I was sitting with one day got some from someone in the hotel. She pulled it out while the waitress was there, and the waitress freaked out. She kept saying, "Where did you get that from? Where'd you get that from? Put it up, put it up." And, you know, we were kind of taken aback. We knew a little bit of the history, and we knew a little bit about why the people were not feeling really good about what was going on. But she began to tell us that you could go to the store with your $50,000 bill and you buy some sugar and something else at 9 o'clock. But if you went back at 9 o'clock the next day, it would be $10 billion or whatever. It would be some ridiculous amount of money. And they would just do that. They could just raise the prices of things at will. And so it was just a mess. But anyway, they use American currency. So we were told that our visas were going to be $50. So we get to the border of Zambia and Zimbabwe, and they want $110. Yeah, expensive toll booths. And the drivers that we had, because we had several buses, the drivers that we had, some kind of way conveniently didn't bring their Zimbabwe passports. So they couldn't take us across. So they had to take our luggage out at the border. They took our passports so that they could be stamped, and they took our money, and we had to get out and walk across the border. And it's people, you know, selling stuff, you know, you see people bartering to get across. It was not, I felt very vulnerable. We were very exposed at that moment. And I did not like the fact that we were told one thing and it more than doubled. Because, you know, there could have been people that didn't have that. And it certainly limited the amount of money that we could spend when we got in there. So, but anyway, the first night we got there, when we finally got there and got our passports back, because we were nervous about that, because, you know, you're told to never give anybody your passport. But if we had not given the guide our passports, we would have had to stay there for hours and hours, because they don't have the technology we had. They had to manually write everything in each of those passports. So anyway, we went there. Oh, this picture right here, I liked it because you can't really see it yet, but there is a baboon running past that lady. And when I first saw them, I thought, oh wow, the dogs, that's a lot of dogs here. It was from a distance. We got close and like, oh my God, those are baboons. They run up and down the street just like dogs, warthogs, you know. So we were going to the Zambezi River to take a little cruise, and they were dancing out there, a lot of dancing, a lot of drums. I was sitting, I think I was on the boat, and they were playing some drums, and I just started, doing like this. And somebody said, "Isn't that something about those drums and us?" I didn't even realize I was moving, but the drums and my body's moving. But anyway, here, those are hippopotami. And there was a place where the crocodiles were, but everybody got in my way, so I didn't get a picture of the crocodiles. This was the bed that I slept in. Somebody asked about the bugs. No problem with bugs until we got here, but I didn't get bit, thank goodness. But the people that did not have these nets around their bed, they were eaten up. I don't know if any of you all know Beverly Akuju. She got tore up the first night we were there. And so first I'm like, okay, this is kind of a net. I don't know if I want to sleep in that. So I kind of propped it up a little bit. But then I saw that.
I was looking at that.
You know how you can see when we first got to the room, we just dropped our stuff and we went and got back on, went to the Zambezi River and all of that. So when I finally got back in the room, I'm kind of exploring it a little bit. I'm trying to figure out how do you get in this bed, right? And then, okay, so I'm sorry, I'm like 58 years old, so I make stops in the middle of the night, right? How am I going to get out of this bed, So I'm trying to, check all that out. And then I walk and I said, what is that over there? I said, oh, Lord Jesus. So now there's no doubt about it. This net is not coming to loose. I'm hoping that they can't figure out, how to get up under there. But we couldn't open the balcony because they would be out there, and I heard them the first night. I know I did. I heard them out there waiting. Just waiting. The hotel was open. There were no doors. It was open. It had an atrium. So whenever I came out of my room, I would do like, and then I would run. I was not playing. So we get to the Zambezi River, like I said, the baboons were running all around, monkeys jumping from everywhere. And then we were getting off the boat and a herd of warthogs went past us. And the Africans, it doesn't faze them. I'm like, oh, Lord Jesus. I'm doing all this and, where's the bus? Where's the bus? It just had me shaking. I don't want to go anywhere like that again. I don't want to do that.
Animals are running loose.
This is Victoria Falls.
Yes.
But the day we went, unfortunately, was the only time it rained. And I mean, it rained. It rained and rained and rained. So it was really difficult trying to get some really good pictures, but those falls are just awesome. And when we were landing, you could see like this funnel cloud. It was mist coming up from the falls. That was spectacular. So we spent quite a few hours there, and some people went to another end of the falls and they came back completely drenched. The first group came back and I said, no, I don't need a bath.
Baboons in the water.
I'm gonna stay right here where I am. So they had this rainforest cafe. It was actually open, a real one, So we were all sitting there. The other group that decided not to go, we were sitting there eating, and I meant to look this up. The cute little monkeys they're thin and they have the long arms, kind of beige in color and the dark faces. Well, one of them kept jumping all around the trees, and people would jump up, run. So it was on the other side, so I was cool, right? So I was finishing eating my food, and then he went and got on, there was nobody sitting at this table, and he was in a tree, so I wanted a picture. So I go over, and like where Jim is, that's where the tree was, and so I'm kind of like right in front of it, and I got my phone up, and I'm getting ready to snap this picture. The monkey jumps down and grabs some food off the table, right?
Oh, I know you screamed.
So I was telling my kids about it, and they were like, Ma, did you get the picture? I'm like, you can't take no picture while you're running. You just can't do it. No, I was running, all right? Because I didn't know what that monkey was doing. I didn't know there was no food in front of me. I thought maybe he didn't want me taking his picture, I didn't get permission or something, I didn't know. Because those monkeys are kind of smart, they told us. They open doors, So I didn't know. They told us that we were walking in the townships that we could take pictures with the kids, but the adults, we should ask their permission. So I didn't know. Maybe I was supposed to ask his permission or something, but I was gone, and that was it. That was all she wrote.
Right, exactly.
So these are the lovely baboons.
They just walking around.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we were on the shuttle bus, and we were coming back from town, and this is the sequence of events.
It's a game.
Yeah, that's how close they got, and yeah.
So before you ran.
No, I was on the shuttle bus, and I was just making sure the driver stopped because everybody was ooh all that kind of stuff, and rolling down windows and things, and I'm thinking, okay, are you people serious? You rolling the windows down? Because these things are huge, So at this point, I said, okay, windows got to go up right now. I mean it. They got to go up. So those pictures were given to me because I wasn't taking any pictures. They were sent to me. I was too busy trying to make sure the monkeys getting in the boat. So of the people that's Prosper. Wonderful, wonderful young man. That's the young man that told me that the children in Zimbabwe no longer dream, and that's where he's from, Zimbabwe. He didn't go to Zimbabwe with us. He said that the travel agency did not ask him to go that leg of the journey, which was only 2 days, the last 2 days. But I kind of think after going there, I don't think he really wanted to go back. Yeah, it was very difficult for him to leave at 14. He's 26, I believe he said now. He told us that he swam, a group of them swam through what they call Crocodile River. So of course, you know, there were a lot of crocodiles. And once they got out of that, they were in the bush for like 4 hours trying to get away. And there in Zimbabwe, and I'm not sure if that's throughout of Africa, if a man and woman divorce, the man gets the children. And so he was living with his father, and he didn't get along with his stepmother. There were no opportunities there, because we were talking about college. He's so articulate, and he was like, "Go to college for what? There are no opportunities for me here." You know, so anyway, we've been kind of talking to him. We've emailed a little bit, and he says that he's really planning to come here, because we were kind of really talking to him about that. You know, that maybe coming here for a while and getting himself established, he can go back. He takes care of his grandmother. Just a wonderful, wonderful young man. It's such a pleasure to be around wonderful young men. That was one of the ladies on the trip, and that's Angela. I don't know if any of you all know Angela from Covenant. And then that's Terry, Reverend Ozzy's sister. And then I'll be back. So, any questions?
What were the nights like there? Was it pitch black?
We were out at night. Yeah, it was dark. The night, because we came back sort of like at dusk from the cruises, but we were out during that safari at nighttime. That was not nice. It was, you know, you're in the jungle, like whatever, and he cut through an area, like a little turn off in the bush, and everybody started screaming. Even the men, it was something. You ever heard men screaming? We didn't know what he was doing. We thought maybe he had lost his mind or something. You know, you watch TV, you don't know. You don't know what's on people's minds. But anyway, he was taking us to,
Street lights, anything like that, they didn't have.
in the city, yeah. Cape Town was beautiful. My mother had already told me that, because she spent some time there right after apartheid was dismantled. Johannesburg is nice, but it's junky. It's like they don't, you know how people are out picking up trash and stuff like that? I mean, you could be in really, really nice areas, and it'll just be trash strewn all over the place. Yeah, but it was worse. I didn't like that. I would love, if I were to pick a place from where I visited to live, I would be Cape Town, because it's a beautiful place. But yeah, unless you were in the townships and things like that, it was a city. They have the same stores we have.
You didn't get to Durban, huh?
No.
How much was the shack before you went?
Oh my goodness.
And how many?
I had to take typhoid, tetanus, and hepatitis A. That was all I thought I had to take, and that was about $180 plus about $25 for what they call a consultation. That's basically to sit and go through your itinerary so that they know exactly what you need. Had to take malaria tablets 2 days before we went to Zimbabwe, because if we had not had that leg of the journey, I would not have had to take the malaria tablets. So I had to take the malaria tablets 2 days before we went to Zimbabwe, and I had to continue taking them 7 days after we got back. But then when we had our first and only meeting about the trip, we found out that we would need to have yellow fever. Yellow fever was $210. One shot. And it was kind of debatable because the CDC did not say we had to have it. But the problem was because we were going to Zimbabwe and we were going back into Johannesburg, they said there was a possibility that they would not allow us to get off the plane if we could not prove that we had that yellow fever shot. So it was like, oh, should I pay the $200, risk being quarantined? No, I figured after 12 days I was going to want to come home. And so it was, I took it like a woman. So,
We're paying roughly about $500.
yeah, roughly about $500. And that's the part they don't tell you about, you know. But again, this is the logic a young person said to me when I was complaining about the money spent on these shots. He says, well, Mel, you don't want to come back with anything you didn't go with. It was well worth the investment.
So you would probably have to take them.
No, the yellow fever is the only one I wouldn't have to take again. That's good for 10 years. So if I'm going back, it's going to be within 10 years. I'm going to get my money's worth. The other one, the hepatitis A, I have to take another part of that later on, and I think that's probably, I don't think you have to do that one again. Tetanus you have to do, I think, every 10 years as well. I'm not sure about the typhoid. But I felt good. I felt fine. I didn't get bit or anything like that. It wasn't as bad as it was made out to be. We were told to bring a lot of long sleeve things, and we were sweating and very upset. You know, so we were buying a lot of t-shirts because it was hot during the day. Yeah. But it wasn't other than the townships looking like the projects. You know, it was like here. It wasn't like you would imagine, I guess, or like they try to paint it. And the clothing, you see some women wearing African clothing, and but for the most part, they wore the same clothes that we wear, but they might wear a jacket out of some African cloth. It would be sharp, you know, a halter top that's African and has jewelry around it, you know. So they were very creative, but it wouldn't be, you know, not for the most part. Like I said, they were wearing weave, very, very Americanized or Europeanized or whatever.
Was it at least a nice week or was it a...
No, they were nice. Yeah. They take a lot of pride in how they look. Yeah, they were beautiful. The only thing mentioning the women, it was kind of interesting. Some of them were very mean. I mean, openly mean. There were some that were very, very nice, but for the most part, like when we go to the store, you go to the counter and there's a African woman there. She's not going to look you in your eye. She might not even say anything to you. You can say, hi, how you doing? I mean, because I was all geeked. You know, I'm in Africa. Yeah, I want to love everybody. I just want to hug everybody. I just want, you know, and I'm coming home to Africa, you know, and I'm all excited and and they would be looking at you and just really, really nasty. And so I asked Prosper, I said, what's up with that? And he said, first he was kind of perplexed. And then he says, well, you know, women are second-class citizens. You know, if they're taking the children from the woman and giving them to the man, you know women are not valued. And he said, and maybe they look at you and think that you have something more than what they have, and it just causes them to have hatred. Because it was really like hatred in some instances. You know, it's not too dissimilar to some of the stuff you deal with women here, but it shocked me. I just wasn't ready for that. I don't know what I thought was going to happen, but I just wasn't ready for that. So immediately I began praying about that because I didn't want to go all that way and have people not like me, you know, and I'm excited about seeing them. And so I began to pray. And when we were in Zimbabwe, in the hotel where the monkeys and everything were, I was coming back to my room and I saw the housekeeping cart at the room next to me. So my door was kind of open. wasn't sure what to do. You know, it was. Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, seriously, it sounds funny. I can laugh about it now, but it was not funny then. So anyway, the door is kind of ajar, and so it just so happens a gentleman came by, and so I said, can you tell me why my door is open? And so he says, oh, the girl will be here. I said, the girl? What are you talking about? So then I went in, I checked and I went in the room. So I'm waiting, and the housekeeper comes in. Her name is Jean, and she was not a girl, but that's how he said it, the girl. So it wasn't affectionate or anything like that. So Jean walks in the room and she's acting like she doesn't want to say anything. And I was like, hi, and I saw her name. I said, hi, Jean, how you doing? I'm Melody. And she kind of looked up and she started laughing. And I think she was nervous. And so I said, how you doing? And so she said, I'm fine. And so I said, well, you don't have to clean the room. You could just leave some towels. I don't require all of that. And you sure? I said, I'm sure. It's not a problem. So then she asked me where I was from. I guess you couldn't tell. And the other thing I noticed that I was told that they don't have a lot of black folks that come to Africa. We don't come to Africa. They're used to, the guy that was walking us around Langa Township said that they kept asking him in their language whether he was really working, because he was with a bunch of us. Because they're used to white people coming and walking around, so they didn't think he was really working. But anyway, she asked me where I was from. I told her where I was from. She asked me, how is it? Her eyes just got so bright. She said, how is it? And so I was trying to find the best words to say, without really telling her how it really is, right? And I said, well, it's a little better than here, And I said, lot more opportunities. I said, are you thinking about coming? And she said, I would love to, but I have to save money. And so I said, well, I would love for you to come. I think it would be awesome, for you to be there. So then she asked me, what did I do? And I told her I was a pastor and that I was a principal of a school. And she said, pastor? It's like she was really shocked. Yeah, she's pastor? And so then she said that she goes to a holiness church, a Pentecostal church. Yeah, and so I said, well, we're not Pentecostal, girl, but I can go there with you now. I can go there with you. And so she laughed, and we just began to talk, and it was so light. And God is so good, and so quick in answering, because I was feeling bad that they didn't like us, that they've got this perception of us. And then God sends Jean in my room, and we had this wonderful conversation. So anyway, I didn't have any more currency, more American money, because, we had got shut down at the border. And so I asked her, I was like, are you going to be, I didn't want to tell her what I was going to do. I asked her, are you going to come, are you going to be here tomorrow morning? Because we were leaving that next morning. And she said, I'm coming back tonight. So obviously they split their shifts up. They come in the morning, they go home, and then they have to come back in the evening. So that's when I got the shuttle driver to take me into town, and that's when we saw those baboons. I didn't know if I was going to get back with my money or not. They might steal too, I don't know. But anyway, when I got back, I asked for her, and I gave her a card. I left cards for Grace all over South Africa and Zimbabwe. I ain't no telling what's going to happen. Any place I could leave one, I left it. And so anyway, I gave her a card, and we talked, and she was so surprised that I actually did what I said I was going to do, which was to look her up to make, when she got back that evening. And then I gave her a little, money, and then I walked away. And Terry was with me, and she said, oh my God, I wish you could have seen her face when she opened her hand. Because I just put it in her hand and walked away, because I didn't want to have a conversation about it. And so that was a highlight of my trip, that I got to meet Jean, and we were able to have that conversation. Anything else? So how many of you are interested in going to Africa? I think we should be in on the next trip or something, or even try to get our own trip together. I don't know. The trip itself was like, for me it was $6,700 because I wanted my own room. So I think if you didn't get your own room, it might have been 62 or something like that. So it's kind of expensive. Yeah, wait a minute. That's funny you say that. Yeah, American dollars. But we were 12 days for the most part. It was inclusive. You know, we did have to buy some meals, but 12 days away, and we stayed in some really nice places for the most part. I mean, they were really nice. But we got to DC, and one of the ladies wanted to be in first class. So we were in coach. And so one of the ladies wanted to be in first class, and she was asking how much it was going to cost, right? And so the lady said 4,000 and something, and I said, "Is that rands?" I know that could be American dollars to ride in first class, a few seats up. I think so. And the lady laughed. She says, "No, USD." So, because rands, I mean, you could get. I bought $400 worth of rands, and I had 4,000 rands.
Wow.
Yeah, I was loaded.
The plane and the room?
Yeah, the plane. Yeah, all those trips that we took. Yeah, and the meals. We had to buy maybe 4 or 5 meals. Yeah, so it wasn't totally all inclusive, but even still, that wasn't bad.
So were the meals expensive?
It depended on where we went, but when you use rands, it wasn't that. It really wasn't. You know, you see this large number on there. You're like, oh, that's rands. Angela, we were walking through the mall, that really exclusive mall, but we were on the other end because we kept walking, and we found that there was another side of the mall. It was the more affordable part. And so we were walking there, and she saw this beautiful dress in the window. And I said, well, let's go see how much it costs. She's like, that dress looks like it costs a lot of money. I said, girl, please don't play that now. You know, we're not going to stand out here and just talk ourselves out of this dress. We're going in here and get to see how much it is. So we found the dress, and the first thing I saw was $825, right? It was rands. So, my heart, you know, $60. $60 or something like that. It was a beautiful dress. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I don't think you could have bought it for $60 here. No, it was worth a lot more than that.
So they tried to transfer your American dollar to rand when you got there?
No, I did mine before I left. Yeah, we could have, but they encouraged us to do it before we left.
You get better. You
Get exchange rate.
get better.
Right here?
Yeah, you get that exchange.
And they guarantee your exchange rate.
Okay, so now that I know there's some interest.
So when we going to plan the trip, I want to go up every time.
And I definitely want to go to West Africa. I think going to where we came from, where more than likely we came from.
Well, Dr. Webb, we have to work with y'all now.
Okay. Okay.
All right.